So here we are, chilling out. That time therapist took 5 minutes, and it really.
Yeah. Reflection.
And I love this place. You know, earlier we were saying about the history and everything
It's just
that,
so beautiful. It is, and you get that sense of peace when you're here, don't you? Because of the natural and the nature, and it's good for your mental health being outside in nature.
Absolutely. And do you find though, like when we go into the therapy, sometimes I actually take mine outside. I've actually brought people here as well as my own family.
I've done lots of walking therapy as well. I've done a lot of that.
Yeah.
It's really popular with teenage and SEND children. They like walking therapy because sometimes some of the SEND children get overstimulated and they need that background voice. So I let them keep one ear put in, but keep the one empty next to me so they can hear me talking. So yeah, we do, especially in the summer months, lots of outside walking. I've even made my children do it bare feet before as well.
Yeah, I have too. Yeah,
to feel Mother Nature beneath their feet. And first of all, they're like, "Ew." I'm like, listen, if I see any dog poo, I will tell you. Let's just give it a go. And before long, they're just talking. I don't know about you, but I never really structure it too much. First of all, I just start talking about what you've been up to, how's your weekend been, things like that. And then I let them lead the conversation. And then I'll sneakily slip things in without them realising, so it doesn't feel like a therapy session.
Yeah, I agree. Because I think the thing is, and it's bad enough for adults when somebody sits there and says, and how does that make you feel?
Strong arm, very clinical.
Whereas, with the older children, the swear words drop in. Because I also think if you distance yourself as being that I'm superior, rather than get on their level.
Yeah.
And I think that sort of intimidating space of being talked at rather than being talked with.
Yes. And a lot of my children, I'll say to them, especially the high school children, I'll be like, well, come on, it can't be that bad. And they're like, yes, because they tell me what to do. They don't ask me what to do. That's very two different things. It's their tone of their voice. So a lot of the time they're going into the classroom with their back up straight away because they know that this teacher's going to talk to them in a tone where they pick up on the tone straight away. They'll walk in, I don't know, Joe blogs. Joe, sit down, take your jacket off. Whereas, Joe, hiya, come in, let's take our jacket off, put our bag down, get ready to work. There's two different tones. So I'm not about to slag off teachers. I think they do an amazing job. And the way things are in school environments now, they don't get paid enough money. However, I think little simple things like that can make a big difference to our teenagers at the moment in school environments.
You're so right. I went to a graduation fairly recently at Brunel for a high school kid and my grandson. And
congratulations.
I was amazed at how the teacher that did the, I suppose, the speech really, not only did he know all the children's names, but he showed real delight and pride in what they'd achieved and spoke about lockdown and things. But the genuine warmth, and it was really lovely to see. And it was like, hey, hi, love your dress, you look really smart, or you two walking in together.
Yeah.
But the conversation was just really natural, and the result of, I say kids, they're young adults, aren't they? But the way that they respected this teacher back was lovely.
Yeah.
And there was one teacher that I know from a long time back who was much stricter, lady teacher, who didn't quite have that warmth and that genuine lovely to see you. And she seemed to sort of stand out a bit because she would talk to the children, but nobody wanted to be in her space.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think you have to be strict at some points and you do have to apply rules, but I think first work on building up that, again, professional relationship with a child, because I know if you think back to school the same as me, I know teachers that made a difference in my learning in the school environment. I can still think of them now, and I think if you ask many adults, what teacher really made you change in your school environment, I can name them. What teacher did you dread having a lesson with? I can name them, and guarantee it's the strict one that didn't talk very well to children. And I hope that I have that skill as a therapist as well, and I'm sure you're the same, that you can go in and give the right energy off to that child.
Yeah.
It's important. I think many of the clients I see, and I'm sure you're the same, have been to previous therapists, and it hasn't been a very positive experience for them. Again, because it felt quite clinical, or they felt very forced into it, if that makes sense, because mum said I had to go here every week and I had to sit there with a lady and she was just writing a book, you know, and then they didn't like it, and then they're reluctant to try therapy again until you're saying, you know, oh, we do it a little bit slightly different, we do this, we do that. Then they're like, oh, okay, you know, and non-clinical. And I think with the parents, I don't know if you're the same here as well, they just all feel so alone and excluded.
Very.
They just feel like in this journey, there's no one.
It's almost as if once you have a child that has a problem, people look and think that it's the parents' fault, as opposed to seeing this bigger picture.
Yeah. I mean, I've experienced that myself. I've got SEND children and disabled children, and it was almost like, okay, here's your child's diagnosis, and this is it on a bit of paper. Off you go, you know. And you just think, shit, like, my child's got all these letters. I don't know how to help my child. That's why I've come here. I've not come here for the letters. I've come here. Can you help me understand my child's condition, and can you help me to know how I can make the world a place that fits for my child? And I never got that. I just got letters and booted out of the door. And that was another reason why I'm so passionate with SEN, because although I hate using this word, they give the children the label. Not one label fits all. You know, you can have one child with ASD who's verbal and needs low support. Have another child with ASD that's non-verbal, doesn't understand, you know, routine and structure, but they still feel that both of these children can cope in mainstream school. It's just bizarre to me how the world works in regards to this. And many years ago, as you would know, for example, Asperger's had its own diagnosis. Asperger's was Asperger's. Well, Asperger's is now part of ASD, you know. Autism was autism. But autism and Asperger's now come under the same title as ASD. How can you do that?
I've never understood that. And it's funny you say that, because I also think that autism and sometimes ADHD is both over and underdiagnosed.
Oh, 100%.
So I've had parents that have said, my child has got ASD, and once you start looking, it's not ASD, but the symptoms are showing as a form of ASD, or ADHD, where they need to let out all of that emotion that they have. And then I've seen others where you sort of say to the parents, have they had a diagnosis? And they say, oh, no, they don't. And I've also seen parents who push to have the diagnosis, and then you have the question, like you just said, of do you put them in with a label, or do you want them to be sort of unlabeled, because there is such a wide field. So I know we deal with the SEN, and we deal with all of that, and we deal with the whole family, which I don't think many people do, and can advise the mums on techniques that, aside from therapy, the extra learning, the ADHD and the ASD. And I think that makes a huge difference. And when we work together, as well, as we were talking earlier about how we don't, so it's not like you come in for the hour, it's about what you need, and we make that work. And the sessions aren't just 6 sessions and that's it. It's about what they need, how we feed into that. And you've been with Miles for Smiles for a lot longer than I have, and you started it with Dwayne.
Yeah.
So what actually made you say, right, this is it, this is the point where I'm going to do something and set it up?
Because we were in lockdown. Dwayne suffered quite badly with his mental health, which he's very open and honest about, as did many. And we first of all opened a Facebook page, which was a mental health support page that was just out there for people that were kind of feeling alone in lockdown, struggling with their mental health, not being able to perhaps see their family. Also, as well, there was lots of SEND family members and children with disabilities who were classed as high risk. You know, they couldn't go anywhere. They felt very scared in their environments and things like that. So it first started off with a mental health support page that myself and Dwayne and a lovely lady called Nicola that opened up first of all. Dwayne then sadly lost his mum and made a promise to his mum that he was going to make a difference with mental health. Dwayne suffered some trauma in his childhood years, and that's where he decided he needed to do something. And Dwayne was raising money for lots of different charities, and he was thinking, well, I'm raising this money, but I don't know where it's going and what it's doing. Like, I'm not getting the feedback like, oh, thank you for your £1,000. This has gone on to help 7 families, for example. And it could be helping anyone in the world or in the country. So he wanted to change that. And he was like, why am I raising money and doing all these charities and events in memory of my mum, but it's not personal? It's not helping people on my doorstep. It's not helping, you know, Joe Blogs up the road that I go for a walk with, his son's struggling, but I've just donated £1,000 to someone that I don't even know, you know. So that's why it was set up. I was kind of like, whatever you do, I'm with you. I know it needs to happen. And then boom, Miles for Smiles started. So Dwayne, first of all, started by walking to different football stadiums, hence where the Miles for Smiles stepped in, because he was walking miles. So he start here, for example, up to Wembley and Liverpool, where he was walking all of it.
I didn't know that. So yeah,
he started off by walking, raising money, and then he went down the path of setting up the CIC, and then he was like, okay, you're a therapist, let's get some more therapists, because it was a lot for me to do on my own, because as you know, first of all, it started off with 1 or 2 referrals. Then the word got out and it was 3 or 4 referrals. Then it's 5 or 6. And then it's all different areas, you know. And that's something we should share as well. Like, we don't just deal with anxiety and trauma. But people think therapy is just anxiety, trauma, depression. It's also phobias, addiction, you know, SEN, domestic violence, drug abuse, self-esteem, self-harm, suicide. It's a whole load of things.
And I think that's one of the things as well, is we've dealt with some really quite heavy cases. So we deal with children that have had quite serious abuse. We've dealt with children that have had suicides in the family and so forth. And we deal with them on a timely manner.
Children running past.
Nothing quite like natural scenery, though, is there? And they're having fun, so that's all that matters. And that's how it should be. And of course, this is why we do what we do, because I'd like to see all children thrive like that and feel that they can be confident enough. Like the children have just gone into the meadow, it's just over there. It's just a stone's throw from the house, where they're obviously having a party, and that's how it should be. Not afraid to step outside the door, or worried that someone's going to look at them wrong, or any of those things.
It's a natural innocence of a child that sometimes is lost and taken away from all of these different areas. I think it's really important, whether that be sexual abuse, being in a family with domestic abuse, could be bereavement, bereavement of a parent, sibling, or even grandparents. You know, all of these things impact and change all of our lives as adults, let alone as a child.
Absolutely.
And sometimes as well, the sad thing is I've worked with children before, and they've not really known what a home environment is. So, and it's only when they've perhaps gone round to a friend's house for tea, or, you know, gone to play, that they realise that the dynamics at home are actually not normal. Or when they start to speak to a therapist, or, you know, I work inside a lot of schools as well, and work alongside social services and things. And some of these children, like, they may just only have one meal, but they're so used to that one meal that they think everybody has one meal, you know, and things like that. I've had, you know, young children that have been 7 or 8 caring for a newborn sibling, you know, but that's their reality, sadly.
And that's the thing, though, isn't it? Because in this sort of modern society, I've read many books, I'm sure you have too, because you're as bad as me for studying and reading, but you read stuff about how, say in America, we know that a few years back, everyone was saying in America they all have therapists. And then you sort of look at the label anxiety, where people don't recognise the whole scale of anxiety from one end to the other. So therapy has quite a bad name. And then when people are bringing their children to therapy, again, it's that there must be something wrong, they need therapy.
Yeah.
But I sometimes think that life happens and something happens, and then the child needs to learn resilience, because therapy isn't about, oh dear sweetheart, you're feeling sad, let's just, it's about teaching them, and helping them to be adults who can face the world with its adversities. And for me, that's one of the strengths of what we do. And I know sometimes it's quite a difficult hurdle to get over, but again, I think it makes such a difference. What part of what you do gives you the most satisfaction?
Giving children the tools that they can take with them all the way through their life. I think that's really important, because I think you can see a 6 or 7 year old and you might be able to cater for them then, but I think if you can give them tools that they can take with them when they face any of those factors going forward in their life, and I feel like it's really important to let them know actually it's actually normal to feel like this sometimes. Oh, I feel really sad and my heart is racing and I feel sweaty, my palms are sweaty. That's okay. It's okay. That doesn't mean that you're weird. A lot of my kids say, oh, well, I'm weird. I'm strange. I'm not like other people. Yes, you are. I got that this morning. Just for them to normalise mental health and normalise that it's okay not to be okay. And, you're not the only person in the world, again, feeling alone.
Yeah, very much. I think we all do that. It's almost as if we want to self-protect. I don't let this person know I'm feeling this because they might judge me or think that I'm not strong enough or whatever it might be. And see, we had the discussion a while back. We were talking about taking this into schools and teaching the basics of why these emotions are there and how they're designed to protect you or
like
make you aware of things.
Kind of mode,
and then how to sit with them and to understand that it's quite normal. How you can, the moment that fight and flight kicks off, you actually, you're safe, so you can relax and say, well, it's working. So if I need to, something happens, whether it be in the next 10 seconds or within an hour, I can have that reaction, so I know it works, so I know I can stay safe.
Yeah, so with my children that suffer with anxiety or have panic attacks, and it's important to state that panic attacks, there's different levels of panic attacks, right? You can have panic attacks where you feel like you literally are in a heart attack. I've had many clients go to hospital saying, oh, I'm having a heart attack, and it's an anxiety attack. So, but it's also very important for them to know that it does pass. It's okay. Things are going to be all right. It's just a bad moment. Better time to come in is try and put that negative into a positive mindset. And you can do that with anybody from the ages of little all the way up to, 80 years old. Putting these kind of tools in place. I mean, okay, we can put the tools in place and it's up to that individual to use those tools. But I think if you say things to people such as, it's just a bad moment, let's sit together, let's just take those deep breaths. Let's focus. And then eventually it will come to, oh my God, I can't breathe, I've got anxiety. And then automatically our voice should start creeping in saying, it's okay, we're going to sit together, let's take those deep breaths. So they're the kind of tools that I like putting into place. And I say to the children, if you start feeling like that, I want you just to listen to these words. We're going to say them together. And then when you get that and your body's playing these tricks on you and your mind's saying these things that aren't true, you're going to replace it with your superhero voice with Shiv, and we're going to say it together and you're going to hear my voice. And then that kind of, I feel, is a really important tool that you can use at any age as you're growing up, because you've programmed that into the mindset and the absent mind, so that they're kind of like, oh, what did Shiv say? Superhero voice. And then they're distracted from the initial thought process and it starts to calm down. So I feel like as therapists we have lots of magic tools. I'm sure you've got lots of magic tools.
I know, when we've discussed that before, because there's the typical play therapy, whether that's sound therapy or the art therapy, and I'm not knocking either of those. I don't want anyone to think
I love them.
I've used them both. Well, not the sound therapy. I've used lots of art therapy and nature therapy. But I've also gone out with a magic wand. In fact, I've done it around here with my grandchildren, my friends' children, and clients' children, coming around here where we chase the demons and the dragons, and we make it fun. And I have magic gems and things, as you know, and I know you do. Oh gosh, what you do, because you are amazing. And the kick-ups that you taught me to do with the boys.
The kick-ups,
And I think that's where therapy should be. But again, adding on to what you were saying earlier, that it's it's not just coming away from the clinical approach. It's about delivering therapy in a way that they know that they're having therapy. That's why they're seeing us. But that first meeting, when they realize that we're not like they've seen on the telly, especially American movies.
Yeah, yeah.
The difference, and the parents, to see the parents actually take that breath and that sigh when they realize help's here,
Yeah,
is amazing.
and I think the breath again from not feeling alone when you say, you know, don't worry, we're going to get through this. When I don't know if you're the same, but whenever I start my sessions, I always say to the mum, right, this is what we're aiming for. We're going to try and aim for that by week 3, but it doesn't always work that way. But what would you like from our sessions? What is the areas you would like to focus on for your child? And 95% of them, I just want them to be happy. I just want them to be happy. And I go, okay, well, we both need to work together. We'll both work together and make that happen. And it's almost like when their child starts, you know, having fun in therapy and they start opening up and engaging, and you give a little bit of feedback to the parents, they're like, honestly, I've been waiting 4 or 5 years just for someone to tell me that I'm not going crazy, or, you know, I'm not alone, or there are things we can do. Especially, again, SEND mums, I feel like they feel so isolated, because taking your children out to certain places with able children can be quite difficult. For me, for example, I could never go to a soft play with my little ones when they were little, because I'd have to leave, because, you know, my child with ASD would kick off and it'd be embarrassing. I'd feel like all the parents were judging me. Whereas now I'd be like, you go ahead, you have your meltdown, you have your moment, you have your you. And if any parent was to look, I would now just look back at that parent, you know. But at the time when I was going through it in that early diagnosis stage, I'd feel so much anxiety and worry and concern that I was being judged as a parent. I'd just swoop them all up and leave. So it was just easier to be at home.
I think people still do that, don't they?
Yeah,
I
very
saw
much
somebody
so.
fairly recently taking their child out of Tesco's. So the lady was with a friend and their little boy, and I think the father must have worked in Tesco's, judging by the conversations, and little boy looking for daddy, and kicked off for whatever reason. And poor mum, when she was saying to the other lady that was with her, like, I'm so embarrassed, let's get out of here. And they happened to be just behind me as I was coming out on the escalators. And I actually said to mum, look, don't worry about it. And she's still sort of, you know, as they are like this. I said, honestly, don't worry about it. These people that are actually looking at you are the ones that don't understand.
Yeah.
And I said, you handled that really well, and you should be proud of yourself, because she did. And then these tears pricked up, which got my heartstrings. And she's saying, like, thank you. And I said, no, don't thank me. Just remember that while everyone else is judging, they don't walk in your shoes.
Yeah,
and
exactly that.
And it's not just that. It's not like, oh, if I had a child like this, I'd do it different. It's actually, it's one of those situations where you can't walk in somebody else's shoes, because with autism and SEND needs, it's so unique and so different that you can't just think, I wonder what it would be like. You actually do have to live it.
Yeah, and like I said before, every child is different with those needs and diagnoses. That not one size fits all, and that's such frustrating thing, is that not one size does fit all. So when it goes to things such as they might, you know, try to find a school for their child, they may have an EHCP in place and they've been told that mainstream is not the place for their child. And that opens up another whole can of fish, because you think, okay, I'm going to find a school for my child for their needs. Now, in these schools, a lot of the time, it is schools that are needing high support, children that really do need hands-on support. But then you have this other area of children that don't fit in mainstream school. They don't fit in these special adapted schools. They're kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
So the government are like, okay, well then we'll just chuck them either way. Now, if you put them in a high need school, they're not going to reach their academic levels or peer lines, because a lot of the children may be non-verbal, whereas this child is over-verbal, ants in their pants. Whereas if you put them in mainstream school, the TAs, although they're amazing and they're underpaid, I feel, and a really big asset to schools, they're unable to teach the class of 30 because you've got one child in there that shouldn't be in there. They should be in an adapted school, but don't fit there either. So this child fits nowhere. So what they're doing is they're leaving one TA to support a whole classroom, but in actual fact, their whole day is making Joe Bloggs sit down with ants in his pants, which is not Joe Bloggs' fault, and it's not the teachers or anyone's fault, but it's distracting the other 30 children. So it's kind of like, where do we go with the child that needs that help?
It's funny you say that, because I had a child who didn't have ASD but had 2 ASD children in the class. Who said the school were doing everything they could to help these 2 children.
Yeah.
But what they would do, one of them had ADHD as well, was in between like the lesson breaks, not just proper classroom breaks.
Yeah.
They would get these childs to do running. So they would, instead of going through the corridor, they would send them out and around the school to take bits of paper and an envelope to the office that would then come back for them to deliver later. And it was just a way of getting them to let that energy out of their system before coming back to do the next lesson. Very successful. Except that then the other children in the class were saying, it's not fair. Why do you always let them go out? So you have that balance. So I agree with you. I think there always has been this sort of middle ground, and the same right the way through therapy. You have this psychiatrist side where they're diagnosing whatever the condition is, and then they're handing out medication. And I'm not knocking medication or what they do. Then you have the next level down where they do have medication, they do have a mental health issue, but they're in the system, so they're joggling along. Then you have the underneath section who then start to worry about what they're going to get diagnosed with and what pills they're going to get. Whereas quite often by working, especially as we do with children, we prevent that course from happening by giving them the tools before something sort of, I suppose, snaps inside of them, that one event or that one thing that happens. And of course, we working with Miles for Smiles in particular, therapy is normally very expensive. There's lots of people who, even though they desperately need it, can't afford it. So we do what we do because we believe in it. And because it's not about the money, it's about the children. And I wish more people were like that. But, when we started and when I came to you and we took it all on, if you could sum that up in why it's so important and what the outcomes of what we do is, and encourage people to donate and support what we do, what would you say?
It's basically saving lives, if I'm honest, and changing lives and letting people have a life, I think, because again, it's not just supporting the children, it's supporting the families and also supporting schools, all areas. I think people tend to think that therapy sessions are just an hour in a room or in an office with a child one-on-one, and that's not actually the case. I've been to lots of board meetings. I've been an appropriate adult in court. I've worked alongside social services. I'm sure you're the same. Worked along other professionals as well. But it's just to be able to give these children and these adults a way of life that is better than the life they're having at the moment. Giving them the tools, and just taking that pressure off and allowing them to breathe. I think it's so important. Sometimes, like you said, it can be something so simple. It could be 1 or 2 sessions. It could just be helping getting mum into a routine. It could be, any of those things. And a lot of the time, I don't know if you're the same, I refer on to lots of different charities too. So I think it's really important that, we do realise that this is so needed, and if you can donate so that our work can continue and carry on, we'd really appreciate, well, we wouldn't really appreciate it, the children and the families would really appreciate it, because September's coming. This means lots of children, lots of change for a lot of children as well. I know that I've had a few parents reach out recently about their children moving up to high school. Very scary time. Children are about to get their GCSE results, just had A-level results, so very hard time for a lot of them. So yeah, I mean, any pennies, any pounds that you could kind of donate would make such a huge difference. And we're really passionate as well about giving feedback to where your money's going to. So it's not like what Dwayne had experienced, where he handed over money and didn't know where that was going. We've recently posted a video clippets of parents' feedback saying how thankful they were and how they found therapy and how it had, you know, worked for their child and the differences it's made. So we also do lots of different fundraising events as well in the local community to raise funds also. So look out for them too. But yeah, the funds are very much needed to make a difference.
And I think as well, especially with working with the whole family, we prevent these children from having mental health issues later in life, where we already know, same thing with the CAMS, the system is absolutely chock-a-block. And these children, once they have the tools and once they've had the healing that they need, can go on to be really productive adults, which means they can be a part of society rather than being, as tends to be happening at the moment, those that don't quite fit in are segregated and frowned upon.
And they often turn to antisocial behaviour, crime, drug abuse, drug addiction. They end up building very unhealthy relationships. I know there's been lots of studies on this, that children from maybe poorer backgrounds, children who have been brought up with adults who have bad mental health, children that have been undiagnosed and kind of slip through the net. A lot of these children then grow and they become to have antisocial behaviour, drug addiction. They continue to build unhealthy relationships, and it's kind of like history repeats itself. It continues to repeat. And hopefully by us sliding them tools in at the right time, well, at any time, it can prevent that. And those tools can then be handed on and handed on. So it's like a domino effect where the positivity hopefully goes along down the line.
It spreads out.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, 2 of the children I helped in younger years have now gone on to do similar work. It's almost like, wow, I want to do that. I want to make a difference. And I think that that's really important, that they can see their self-worth, because a lot of these children don't at the beginning. They don't see their self-worth, and it's not until we give them those tools and that relationship that they start to see it. And I don't know if you're the same, but sometimes I go home and I think, what a light bulb moment. The switch has come on. When you see the switch come on and you see their face light up and they come into next session, and it's so, you can just breathe, you can feel their energy is different.
Beautiful moments.
Their body language is different. They're quite hyper and wanting to, you know, and you're like, oh, hello, I'm liking you today. What's, you know, and then they've had, for example, one of the children I used to see, hair all in their face, looking down, closed body language, you know, and she was a beautiful singer. I got her in touch with a singing teacher that was doing one-to-one private quiet sessions for her. I got a video of her singing on stage, but she still had her hair in her face. We were working with it. And then towards the end, I was with the girl for about 4 months. She came in, hair behind her ears, and she sat there and went, I've drawn you a picture. And she was an amazing artist. And I was like, oh my God, that is stunning. And she went, and I've been putting my hair behind my ears, and I was like, oh, you've got the most beautiful face. Why are you covering it? You know? And yeah, it's moments like that, little things, hair behind the ears, just can make such a big difference when you've been working with a child. So yeah, I just hope that it comes across how passionate we are. I think that's why we do a reduced rate, is because we're passionate about it.
And it's funny you say that, because I was sitting here thinking, it's really weird talking on video when we just gabble on normally, and we're obviously conscious of the video. We are new to this, so forgive any errors.
Sorry.
But you're right, I don't know of anyone else or any other charity where, apart from those where you have the odd few volunteers who will give up a little bit of time, where the therapists are not on a significantly reduced rate. So you know, we take next to nothing. It covers our costs for what we need to do. But it's not just about the session. It's about the you know, all the stuff we have to do before. We sort of plan it. We look for ideas, because after all, especially with children, they need this stuff. Then there's the clinical notes, the write-up afterwards, so that if anything happens to any one of us, if necessary, they can be accessed so that the treatment can continue. But also, it's not, like we said before, it's not just that session. Most of them go on for a good couple of hours, I know. But it's the phone calls 11, 12 o'clock at night, where we pick up the phone and we answer the distress call, and we get a very urgent appointment booked in. And we run with what's put in front of us because we know how desperate you can feel when that isn't coming forward, and when you're told, oh, it'll be 6 weeks before we can even think about putting you on the books. So this is why we do what we do, and it's why we believe in it. And you can probably see from the video today, this is why Shiv is our head therapist, because she's been there from day one. She's amazing. And as the therapists have come on board, she's offered 100% support. So I'd never worked with children in this capacity before, but now it feels like second nature. So if you can support Miles for Smiles, what would you say?
Please do. Please support us. We want to continue to help and support these children, families and adults as well now.
And adults, yeah.
We want to continue doing what we do and making a difference. And if you can come with us to make that difference by donating, we'd really, really appreciate it, because it is really needed. And I'm sure there's going to be more videos coming up of where we can show you just where that money's gone, show you obviously the way that we can, show you the way that this money's really made a difference to so many families and children. So please help us to continue doing what we're doing. And yeah,
and remember, we're new to this.
Yes.
And we've all got some form of ADHD, so forgive us.
We really do. Don't want to see all these criticising messages in the comments.
After all, it is mental health.
It is mental health. So be kind.
Please do come along and support Miles for Smiles however you can, whether that's a small donation or whether when you see us fundraising, it's sending across a raffle prize, because it's not just us that work in this patch. There's a fair few of us, and we all just want to make the world a better place.
Yes, we do. Thank you.